what you've just seen there is a speeded up version of the space shuttle taking off from Cape Canaveral. So when they say when the space shuttle launches into orbit, it burns up 96% of all of its fuel in the first 8 minutes, trying to escape the Earth's gravity and reach this thing called escape velocity. That's when it kind of punches through the power of gravity and then into outer space. And of course, when it's in outer space, there's not much gravity there, so it takes a lot less energy to stay there. Now, my experience from launching a couple of companies and getting them through that escape velocity is that that feels a lot like launching a startup, right? Those first few kind of months when we're going from 0 to 10,000 or maybe 50,000 customers, we're burning a lot of energy. We're doing things mainly because we're doing things probably a little bit less efficient as we should be. Right? And that's like the gravity that's pulling us back. And that's something that fascinates me. So my name is Howard Kingston, if I haven't met some of you already, and I'm from Ireland. Anyone else from Ireland in the room? No? That's okay. And since I got here, Ireland, I think, since I got to Slovenia, flew in last night, the first time ever in Slovenia, and I really found there was a few kind of similarities between Ireland and Slovenia. First of all, we're a small country, so we probably have more fields than people. I noticed we both share a love for potatoes. I discovered that at lunchtime. And as well, but the main thing is just meeting people. The minute I landed in the airport, I could really feel a warm welcome. That's something we're famous for in Ireland, and I could really feel the passion of people here in Slovenia. And the fact that it's kind of put on the map by the guys running PODIM, I think is really amazing. So the effort that Urban and Natasha and all the team have done to put Slovenia on the map with this international conference, I think is amazing. So please, round of applause for the organizers. Really amazing thing. So over the last 10 years, I've been growing companies. About 5 years ago, I launched a gaming company, and we grew quite rapidly through that escape velocity. We grew to 20 million users globally in about 2 years, mainly using viral marketing techniques, and then that business was acquired by Inspire Games. And 4 years ago, I started my business Adludio, and we help global brands touch their customers through mobile advertising. And we work with global brands like Nike, Unilever, all these kind of guys, about 70 now globally. And I've really learned a lot about how to kind of grow B2C or B2B businesses and reach that escape velocity. And the thing about that escape velocity is, like I was mentioning, you know, I could talk about what marketing tactics I recommend for you all to do for your businesses to get through escape velocity, but the truth is, every business is going to be different. Probably some businesses here are marketplaces, there may be some stores here, there might be some apps. So rather than focusing on things that kind of different marketing tactics, which will only be relevant for part of the room, I thought I'd focus on what is that gravity that I see holding most early stage entrepreneurs back. And I speak to thousands of them every year, teaching in General Assembly and stuff like that. So what are those things that are holding people back? And there are three main things, and I call it AFS, right? So the first one is, like, when I meet all the kind of different startups, I meet people today, the first question I always ask them when I start trying to get an understanding of what their business is doing, I ask them, who's their core customer? Right? Who are you selling to? Do you know what is the #1 most regular answer to that question I get when I ask that question to an early stage business? Anyone like to guess? Everybody. Everybody. My business is so freaking amazing. It's for everybody. I'm like, okay. So I go, okay, so my grandmother lives in the west of Ireland on a little island with no internet, right? Is it her? And they're, oh, well, it's not her. It's not her. Like, but everyone else, I say, okay, well, my nephew, Killian, who's 5. This is him. He's a hustler, you can see. Is it him? And it's like, oh, well, not him. It's everyone else. And we kind of go down that road and ask this insurance guy who doesn't use the internet much and all this kind of stuff. So it's never everybody. It's never everybody, right? So that's the first thing. Your market is never everybody. And the thing that you need to realize with marketing, to market successfully, if you believe that your product is for everybody, you're making a product which is for nobody. Right? So that is one major takeaway for if you want to market well, if you're marketing to everybody, you're marketing to nobody, right? And there's a reason that people kind of do that and try and make it for everybody, right? They've got this thing called FOMO, right? We all know it, right? Fear of missing out, because we think, oh God, I might miss out on this customer, I might miss out on that customer. But the truth is, when we are trying to be everything to everybody, we're not being brave, right? We're not brave enough to go, no, I'm excluding those customers and I mean something for this customer. Because when you find your core target market, when you find that one type of person it is, they should be like, hell yes, I want that product. Hell yes. And when you find that one person, then it means everything to them. So that's what I call the bowling pin strategy, right? When you're looking to launch, and especially that early stage launch, look for that one person at the tip of the pins when you're bowling. Knock over that one person, and then you can expand into other territories or other types of people, great. But look for that one person. So that's great to do. So how can we do it, right? So this is what you call, this is practical homework. Everything I'm going to talk about today is very actionable. This is what's called a target persona of your core audience. Who here has one of these written out for their company? One person, 2 people, that's totally cool. You guys are A players, clearly. So I have one of these for all my companies, right? I have printed off and on my desk. So this is one, I've got a blog, startupremarkable.com. This guy, Rupert, is a friend of mine. I have it printed out and put on my page. Why do I do this? Because it's all about this word called relevancy, right? Whenever I'm writing a blog post, I write it for Rupert. Whenever I'm doing a talk, when I was writing this talk, I thought about talking to Rupert, right? What would Rupert want to know? When I'm thinking about doing a Facebook advertising campaign, I do it for Rupert. Right? And it's easy to find people like Rupert. If you're just trying to do everybody, how are you going to do that, right? So it's all about this word relevancy, such an important thing in the world of marketing. And then once you have that in place, that core target audience, you can start doing some really clever marketing things, marketing strategies. One of the most impactful marketing strategies that I know of is this, right? Once you know your core target audience, sitting down with that picture of Rupert and go, okay, what are 10 places that Rupert would go? Where are 10 things that Rupert would read or listen to or watch? Podcasts, what podcasts would he watch, all that kind of stuff. And what are 10 things that Rupert would buy? Make a list as homework for your companies. Do this tonight. Make yourself write 10 each. You'll get to number 8 and you'll be scratching your head. Make yourself do 10 each. And once you have those 30 lists, something will pop out of the page, probably 2 or 3. They go, God, that's a really good idea. Maybe I could market via that channel. I have never thought about that before. And that's how the big companies do it, right? Airbnb, how did Airbnb launch and kind of grow? Well, Airbnb is this great, big, successful company, but they started just like all of us. They were trying to reach escape velocity, and for a long time, they were struggling. They were not growing as fast as they wanted to. So they went out and they interviewed their core customer. They found that their Rupert was people who wanted to, rent property lettings. And they said, okay, so where is Rupert go buying and reading? Where is he? And they found that the one place that they were all hanging out was they would go to Craigslist to make their holiday bookings, to make their rental bookings. So the guys at Airbnb was like, okay, so how can we get people from Craigslist in an easy way over to Airbnb? And the advantage that Airbnb had was it had all these beautiful professional pictures. Of course, Craigslist at the time were really ugly pictures. So whenever someone posted a property to Airbnb, the guys at Airbnb had a team of people just reposting stuff onto Craigslist. And this is one of the first posts. This is what it used to look like. This was completely free. And they just did this constantly. And people would have a look at the pictures. They'd click on the Airbnb ones because they're the most beautiful. And it says to click here, to make this booking, click here. And once you clicked here, it went back to Airbnb. And they constantly just cycled users around like that. So that is a strategy anybody can use for any kind of business. And it's essentially like this. It's what I call tribal growth channels. It's one, find out your core customer, make that persona. 2, find out where they're hanging out online. I call this tribal behavior. And then 3, find some creative way to try and attach yourself to that behavior. A stands for audience. So the second thing, right? So hands up here who has written out on paper where they want their business and themselves to be at the end of this year. Hands up. Be honest. Now that's actually quite impressive. I've asked rooms full of people that question before. Normally there's only 1 or 2. So Slovenia clearly has high achievers, right? But the question is this, right? If you have not made that plan, how do you know where you're trying to get to? If you're going on a year-long road trip, would you just jump in the car and start driving? Would you? Would you not take out a map, have a look at all the different places you could go to, weigh up the ones that have all the elements of it that you like, and kind of go, right, this is the place for me, and then plan away milestones. Okay, we'll drive here first, and then we'll drive here, and then we'll drive here, and then drive here, right? If you do not have that plan, you are going to struggle during the year. How so? Because things like Stelly earlier was talking about the power of no. When opportunities come up every day, like, oh, dude, did you hear about Periscope? Periscope's the hot new thing. Should we check it out? If it's not aligned with, if you don't know where you're trying to get to, you just try all these different things. And I don't know about you guys, but in startups, a lot of opportunities come up, and when you try everything every day, you end up feeling like this, right? And you go home at the end of the week, and you go, what the hell did I do all week, right? But by actually having a focus plan, that can change, right? So how do we do that? How do you create that focus plan? For the first thing you need to do is find out where's that point you're trying to get to at the end of the year, and you have to write it down. You have to print it out and put it somewhere and remember it. Because then when you're making plans, you can see, is that in line with that? So you may have heard these things called SMART goals. SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, all that kind of stuff. It should be something like that. So a bad end-of-year goal is, we want to be really, really big. Right? That's a bad one, right? Because you don't know, how do you know if you get there or not, all that kind of stuff. A good, smart goal for the end of the year will be, we want to have 10,000 customers by the 31st of December, 2016. Very, very clear. And once you have that, what do? Every week, every Sunday, myself personally, for half an hour, I'll take out my list and I'll say, what do I need to achieve this week? And what thing will get me closer to that 10,000 mark at the end of the year, right? What are the key things? And then I'll plan those things out for the week. And then, once I have those plans for the week, every night before I go to bed, I'll do something called the Ivy Lee method. Has anyone heard of this before, the Ivy Lee method? It's one of the most powerful things I've kind of learned over the last few years that really upped my productivity. So Ivy Lee was a management consultant back in kind of 1920s, and he went and met this guy behind me called Charles Schwab, right? And Charles Schwab was like, listen, Ivy, we know what we got to do. I just need to get my team and myself doing more, right? So if you can tell me a way to increase productivity by 50%, then I'm interested, right? And Ivy Lee went that's totally cool, right? I'm going to tell you now something that will increase your productivity by 50%. You don't need to pay me now. Just send me a check of how much you think it's worth once you've done it. He goes, cool. And Ivy Lee takes out a piece of paper, right? A small piece of paper, just like this. Could be a yellow sticky note. And he goes, before you go to bed, write down the 5 most important things you need to do tomorrow. Then prioritize them, 1 to 5. Then, when you go in tomorrow morning, start at number 1 and don't do anything else, nothing, until you finish number 1. Then move on to number 2 and don't do anything else, right, until you get to number 2. And that is what I do, right? And I stick that beside my computer every day, and then when I start going onto Facebook or I start checking emails or someone says, oh, can you come to this meeting? It's all here, right? That one thing will allow you to stop getting overload, to prioritize, and then when you're doing those kind of things, you'll go home knowing that you achieved the most important thing. That leads to confidence, increasing your confidence, and feeling like you've achieved stuff in that week, right? When you're doing stuff like that, you then get into a state called flow, right? When you're just absolutely focused on the right thing. Do you know when you've been like mountain biking or skiing or something like that, and you're just focused on on kind of what's in front of you? That is what sports athletes want to get into when they're trying to do peak performance techniques for their own performance. So doing these methods that I've just told you about will help you get into that flow and feel that you're achieving stuff. So every day when you're in your startup and stuff is coming up, you feel like you're this and not like this, right? Which I'm sure we've all been there, right? F is for focus. The last one, S, is for sandwiches. What? Sandwiches? Or more accurately, have you tried the sandwiches? Okay, so there's like 900 people at this conference. Who here has met at least one person at this conference since you've got here? Amazing, interesting people, yeah? What is the one question you are guaranteed to be asked? What do you do? Right? What do you do? Now, I don't know about you guys, but very commonly, I ask that question. I asked that question to people earlier. I ask the question all the time, right? I get asked that question. And how many times do you get an answer which is like, we're a platform connecting JavaScript through AI technology, and within a minute, you're just like, and my default to that is, I don't know what the hell it is, so I say, have you tried the sandwiches? All right? Have you tried the sandwiches? And when you ask that question, and people are bored, yeah, you get people with this kind of expression, right? Or this, right? They're just like, I have no idea what this person is saying. Have you tried the sandwiches? Change the script. And when this happens, when someone does not ask you more about your company, you've missed a huge opportunity. That person could be an investor, could be a business partner, could be any amazing things. This is one of the big things I see holding back early stage companies, is that they do not know how to communicate their company in an enthralling way that asks a question. Right? I've done a little bit of research on this, right? And on average, they say we meet 3 new people a day. That's 1,100 a year. That's 80,000 in our lifetime. Don't you think it's worth 15 minutes to get a good response to the question, what do you do? Yeah? So when it comes to communication, I want to do something called a paradigm shift in many of your kind of minds. So paradigm shift is when you're looking at something one way and then all of a sudden, oh my God, it's actually different. And the thing with communication, I've learned, is that if you say something to somebody, if someone asks you, what do you do? And you give them an answer and they go, oh, have you tried the sandwiches? Or where are you from? They do not say, wow, tell me more about that. When that happens, you have failed. You have failed. It's not the other person, they don't get it, or they're too busy. You have failed because you have control over projecting the words that will either elicit a, ooh, that's interesting response, or that's not interesting response, right? So with that knowledge, I want to present to you what I've found a really easy method for describing yourself in an interesting way. And it's hopefully something which you can all take away and start applying today. And I call it the 5-word introduction. The 5-word introduction. Now, I can't take claim for this. It's actually my buddy Clay who told me about this. But it's really, really powerful. And it's essentially this. I help X achieve Y. I help X, and X is my core customer. We've talked about that earlier. Achieve Y. Y is a benefit of some description. So let's see that in action, will we? So we met Stelly earlier. Was everyone here for the Stelly talk? I started brainstorming for Stelly. I help entrepreneurs close more deals. Yeah, interesting. Yeah? Oh, how do you do that? I'm an entrepreneur. How do you do that? I want more deals. Alex was up here earlier from Techstars. I help entrepreneurs build great businesses. Okay, all right, great. Urban from PODIM, if everyone knows Urban. I connect incredible entrepreneurs. Interesting, 5 words. Mine, I help brands touch their customers. Or if I'm talking to a group of entrepreneurs about marketing, I help entrepreneurs grow their dreams, right? So when you are doing this for yourself, and I highly it'll take you maybe 1 or 2 minutes to do, start practicing it. The key to this is not to describe every single line of code in your product in this description. Just play for intrigue. Keep it really short and just intrigue people. It works for 2 reasons. One, when people ask you the question, what do? You instantly bat it back to them with a confident response. And half of it is, the way that you say it, more so than the actual words. We know that. And then the second reason it works is it allows people to take it in whatever way they want. Maybe they're interested in entrepreneurship. Maybe they're interested in marketing. They can kind of go down that route or that route. So try it out later on today, and you'll find you will get better results from the people that you meet. So those 80,000 people that you're meeting are now opportunities and not wasted opportunities. And you won't get this answer anymore. Right? So what I've discussed in the last few minutes, audience, focus, and sandwiches, they're the 3 things I've seen are holding back 98% of the people, of the early stage startups, from achieving that point of escape velocity. And by doing these things, you will find everything else is so much easier when you're on that escape velocity trajectory. So I've really enjoyed being here on stage. Hopefully there's some kind of good takeaways there. If you want those slides with all those resources, I found a lot of people taking photos. I've also got a free ebook. Just go to that link and you'll get it all sent out for free. And I'm around. I'm here to brainstorm 6-word intros with everybody for the rest of the day. So if you want me to brainstorm with you on your perfect intro, I'd love to do that. Thanks very much, everyone.